Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, well, today we put together a 6-step survival plan. Um, a lot of people, when they first get into prepping or realize, hey, I'm not completely in control of my life, or, hey, anything could happen at any time, or, hey, my government really sucks. When you come to reality with any of these things, it turns out you're like, wait, I should be a little bit prepared. And this can be overwhelming and scary. This can, put you on edge where you feel like, hey, I'm a little nervous. Anything could happen, and I'm not really ready for it. Well, we want to help you get there. We want you to learn the steps that are simple, straightforward, and where your priorities should be, and how to get your life in order, how to be prepared for whatever may come. So, hopefully, we're going to answer all that. Actually, I know we're going to answer all that. So, I got an
All right.
excellent list, and we're going to get right to it. Kevin,
Okay.
where do we
Yeah, the
start?
first one is developing a personal profile.
I
Now,
like it.
what I mean by that is kind of taking a minute to do a self inventory.
All right.
Um, so let's as Teddy Roosevelt famously once said, if you could kick the person in the ass that caused you the most problems, you wouldn't be able to sit down for a week. And I think
That sounds accurate.
that's a valid statement. Most of our problems are caused by ourselves, and it's by not being aware or getting in our own way, or any of a million different ways that we kind of unknowingly self sabotage ourselves.
Yes, that is
One of the
definitely a thing.
main things that your brain is always telling you is to sit down, relax. You're tired. You don't
I
have
am
time to go
tired.
to the gym. You don't have time to go for a walk.
Yes.
You're too tired to do 50 squats real quick because you got to keep that buttocks in shape. I mean, there's a lot of
Yes.
important things that we overlook. Whether it's our age or how infrequently we exercise, how we eat hamburgers and cheeseburgers, French fries, and all that garbage that we're shoveling into our mouth all the time. There's a million different ways that we're that we can improve ourselves just through little steps, basics.
All right, I like that. Suggestions? Where do I start, Kevin? I get a little overwhelmed. I'm like, "Ooh, I should hit the gym." And
Yeah.
then so you're saying maybe take on small steps. Keep moving in the right direction. It can get overwhelming. So if perhaps I decided, hey, I work in a big factory, and I have all these giant pieces of pipe, would it be wrong to put a pull-up bar up in the factory and do pull-ups every day?
Mm-hmm.
It turns out when I did the everyday thing, you might want to cut it down to every other day for pull-ups.
Yeah.
You may want to find the time to do 100 push-ups a day. You can do that every day. But the pull-ups, it turned out it was like start out at like 3 or 4, and then it goes down to like 2, and then the next day like 1. Like I can't even move anymore.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
when you took that break, yeah,
if you do 2 pull-ups every day, that's 2 pull-ups ahead of everybody else in the world. So,
exactly.
uh,
No, and don't think like 2, 3 pull-ups. That's not where it ends. Believe it or not, it's kind of like running, where you do 2, and then a week later it's 3, and then a week
mhm,
later it's 4, and then
yeah,
it's 6, and then it's 8, and then you're doing 10 pull-ups, and then you're like, all right, if I can do 10 pull-ups, I'm a man, and to hell with the rest of you, right?
yeah. Not
And
not
that's
to brag, but I can do 20 easy. Just
dude,
putting it out there.
you're a dick.
Also,
Dude, you don't need to shame the rest of us, all right?
yeah.
Some of
Also,
us are maxing out at like 8 right now. So I don't want to
Hmm.
hear about your 20. And you got
Yeah.
to realize I'm lifting a lot more weight than you are. I'm lifting two of you. So I'm probably twice the man you are. Is the way in more ways than one.
All right, fair enough. I'll give you that. All right, so another thing that you need to concentrate on when you're working on developing your personal profile is think about things like that. Think about your
Yeah.
age, weight. Um, I know one of the biggest problems that people run into is that they're not getting the appropriate amount of vegetables.
Okay.
Love to slam sandwiches and I think the number one vegetable consumed in the United States right now is potatoes, and that's because of French
Yes.
fry.
I
You
do
know,
like French fries.
get some broccoli, get some Brussels sprouts, get some beans in there, man. Even corn, all that stuff is great. I feel like I've got a unnatural hatred for corn because I was raised in the middle of a bunch of fields and I was fed that every night. But you know, you got to get your vegetables. You got to get your proteins in there. Leave the ho hos on the shelf. You don't need them every day. You
Oh,
don't need a cookie for dessert every day. You don't need to have a bowl of ice cream. Settle down with the sugar. Just take it
yeah.
easy.
Yeah, one of the guys I work with just got all excited because he's like, "Oh, in the vending machine, you can get two big like ho hos for $1." And I'm like,
Right.
"Yeah, that's not a good thing." I'm like, "That's not going to help you." But
Yeah.
to
I know that
each
a
their
lot of
own.
people are on the move every day. They're too busy to really
Yeah,
like make themselves a healthy lunch or something. But even in most gas stations, they have bananas and apples,
they do.
and that's a lot of sugar, but it's also a lot better for you than a Coke or you know
Yeah,
a ring ding. So just be conscientious of that sort of stuff, and you know maybe take a few minutes and kind of pay attention to what you're eating throughout the week. You know, pay attention to how
yeah,
much sleep you're getting. Pay attention
yeah.
to what you're doing to educate yourself and not just entertain yourself.
No, breaking in some salads and that kind of stuff. It can really, I mean, just mixing it in here and there. Um,
Right.
I found that not snacking or eating throughout the day makes a in being able to drop a few pounds.
Hmm.
Um, when I finish eating at work or whatever, I eat dinner, and that should be it for the end of the day. And coming home and having like, oh well, I'm tired and it's 11 o'clock at night, and I should eat something else. Maybe don't.
Yeah.
Maybe
Maybe
don't
just
go for
not.
the alcohol. It turns out,
Yeah.
maybe
Thomas
that'd be better.
Jefferson's quote was better it's better to go to bed hungry than to wake up in debt. And
Okay,
some of that stuff that you're eating is putting you in health debt, not financial debt.
I
But
like it.
it's a way to think about things. Now, the second one that we wanted to talk about kind of rolls right into this one
Okay,
is matching your finances to your plan. Anybody that's been to the grocery store lately knows that things are almost out of control with prices of food right now. It's
they are
just
a little hairy.
preposterous. I
Yeah.
went and bought a week's worth of groceries and I spent $300, and I'm not even eating steak or shrimp this week. So I mean,
Oh,
prices are out of control. Uh,
now
I
what do
know
you pay for eggs where you live? I know. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't buy eggs anymore. It's been
No.
so long since I've actually
Yeah.
had to buy eggs.
All right.
I know milk is almost $5 a gallon though.
Milk is 5 a gallon. All right.
Yeah. Eggs are over two. I think they're just under three up here in New York.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, that's about
Yeah.
what we're paying here. Because we went from like 37 cents a dozen to like $2 or $3.
Hmm.
So it's made a change. And
Yeah.
my chickens have made it that I'm not going from walk in the backyard was my price before, and now it's
Right.
kind of like
Yeah.
winter time and you get like two. And I'm like, you guys suck.
Yeah. And I know the winter time. It's I got a light for my a solar light for my
Yes.
hen or my
Yeah.
coop,
Yeah.
and basically as soon as the sun goes down, it lights up, and it's supposed to
Yes.
make the ducks and the chickens lay more eggs.
Yes.
But really, all it makes them do is make all sorts of noise all night. They think it's daytime, and they're just quacking and squawking and being assholes all night. So I think I'm gonna have to start turning that thing off. It's more problems than it's worth.
That sounds right. So, all right. So, how can we get our budget in order? Like, what are some steps? So, I know a lot of people have a lot of subscriptions and pay for things that are just kind of ridiculous. A lot of younger people, it's hard to get into that mindset of saving for retirement and
Right,
kind of putting in. Now, again, telling you, hey, buddy, you should be putting in your 401k. You could be like, yeah, Chuck. So I could be like you and put in maybe 10 grand into the 401k and see it go down 12 grand. That would
right.
be awesome. I should do that. Well, no, that's not exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's not necessarily where you want to be. But
yeah.
you could do some little squirreling away. Maybe instead of the subscription to Amazon Prime or Netflix or something like that, or Spotify or Hulu,
Hulu
or
podcast. Yeah,
maybe you just cut down to one of them or two of them and you cut out the other three, or maybe you get rid of the Hallmark subscription, the HBO, the Showtime, the other things that you add to Prime that are, every month and you forgot about, you don't even watch more.
hmm
Maybe you go to some of those and you cut back half of them. And if you're like, but Chuck, I just need a subscription. It just makes me feel good. All right. Get a subscription to the like silver or gold buyer club and
hmm
have them send you coins every month.
right.
There's a bunch of companies out there that you can build up, where it just puts in $20 a month or whatever. And then when they have enough to buy a coin or two, they ship them out. Maybe that's how you want to do it. I'm just
Yeah,
saying there are ways to start to make better choices. Um, they always say, you can save all that money making coffee at home. I would say by drinking real coffee like a man, you'd be doing yourself a favor anyway,
hmm
instead of that foo-foo sugar nonsense that people might get. Just saying. Now, maybe getting rid of coffee altogether has some health benefits. I haven't figured out what any of them would be, so I haven't bothered. But
yeah. I'm not
I've
gonna
heard
try and
people
find that out.
say,
Yeah,
I've heard people say,
yeah. But I mean, also, I mean, it makes it's a valid point though. I mean, right now, if I go to McDonald's or Burger King for lunch, I'm spending almost $15 here in upstate New York.
right,
$15, 5 times a week. That's not just bad for my health; it's bad for my budget. There's a
right,
lot of stuff that you could just cut out that would just be better for you in
yeah.
general. Um, now, what do you number three on our list here today is what was number three? It was
Bug out bag or like
bug
a
out
get
bag.
home bag. Just get your
Right.
stuff kind of together. So I think more important would be putting together a good get home bag. Now, if
hmm
you really don't understand what goes in there and whatever, we did do a really detailed one. I think we have one on the YouTube channel, which you may
Right.
want to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would only make your life better. Um, but you could also um, go ahead and you know, put together a bag with the essentials that if you ended up getting stuck and it took a day or 2 days or three
Yeah.
days to get home, what would you need? Some kind of water purification, possibly some stuff in your car to keep you warm,
Hat,
um,
gloves. Yep.
hat, gloves, that kind of thing. You might want maybe a flashlight, right? That could be cool. Uh,
Yep.
maybe extra bullets. I'm just saying. It depends what state you live in.
hmm
Maybe if you live in one of those communist states, you have like a little pen knife that you could stick somebody in the eye with or something. Maybe
Yes.
if you live in New York, like you could just carry a sharp stick in the back of your car because, that
They
already
haven't.
puts you ahead of the rest of
So
the
in New York State, it is legal to carry nunchucks now.
nunchucks.
I'm
Right.
starting with
So,
nunchucks. Also, I've given myself 3 concussions since I started trying to learn how to use nunchucks. But I mean, it's a step. You can also have a tactical pen, which actually
ooh,
works as a pen, or you could stab somebody in the neck with it. I
and
mean,
at least leave a bruise. I
yeah,
mean, there's
yeah,
something you can.
multi-use tools is all I'm saying. You want to cut down on weight and maximize your, what you can carry with you. Multi-tool is great to throw in there. A lot of those things, nice sharp knife,
Ways
some
to
basics.
purify water, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I would also suggest having uh, a car safety uh, a car safety uh, box. I have a
Okay.
box, so you can have a bag, whatever.
Right.
Jumper cables, um, tool set, wrench set, basic stuff like that. I have a little ratchet set in there. I've got a couple of wrenches, and it's not all just for you. You know what I mean? If somebody's broken down on the side of the road and you can get them back on the road real quick, why not?
Yeah.
Why not do that? Every once in a while, somebody's stranded in a parking lot because they left their headlights on or something like that. If you can give them a quick jump, that's great. And if you got them in your own car, just for your own personal use, that's great. Um,
Right.
but really, some basic. What you want to have is access to basic tools and the knowledge to know how to use them. Um,
Right.
all right. Number 4 is food. Now, when it comes to food, as preppers, I think that's our one of our main go-tos. It's a great
Yeah.
way to invest money. It's a great way to save money, but it's also a great way to plan for a temporary power outage or a million different disasters, even losing your job. It's a great thing to have a couple of
Right.
weeks worth of food ready to go.
Yep. No, that extra bit of preparedness. Now, there's a couple of ways to approach it. The easiest way is to kind of just throw money at it. And by throwing money at it, you can, buy one of those long-term food storage kits and have stuff that's packed and sealed. And you want to put it in a place where it's going to be free from rodents and free from things that are going to destroy it, free from weather, temperature, different things that could really take a toll. The next thing you'd want to do is you're saying, well, Chuck, I've seen those and they want $2,000 or $3,000 for a couple of months worth of food. And you're right. You know, we don't need to be spending that kind of money. There's a bunch of other ways, and we have some shows on that and things that you guys could really dig deep into on how to really get the most bang for your buck. But guess what? You can start small. You can start by buying an extra something that's on sale each week, if that's where your budget's at. Like, hey, this stuff is finally at a reasonable price. Let me just buy 4 cans instead of 2 cans of tomato sauce, right?
Hmm.
And you set that aside and you start to build a little bit more. Maybe your budget allows for a little bit more than that. Maybe you are like, hey, you know what? I can't buy $2,000 worth of long term food storage, but I could spend $40 extra on food and set a little aside. There's certain things you can buy that'll actually make your budget go a little bit further. I would look at things like rice, right?
Right, rice is great.
Beans.
Dried
That
beans,
stuff's
especially
pretty
if you
cheap.
get dried beans in the
Yeah.
bag, you're not spending a lot of money on that. Those beans will go a long way. Another one with rice is pasta. You know,
Yes.
People think about freeze dried food as like something they don't want to eat, but the
Right.
truth of the matter is, you eat a lot of freeze dried food already. You're already eating rice. You're already eating pasta. A lot of these basic stuff go a long way to really stretching out your budget. And also, you know, maybe it's not the healthiest food, but you need calories. You need calories to burn if you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have to be more active than normal and you're going to be uh, short on food. Calories are a big deal. One of
Yeah.
my things is I always have too much peanut butter. I don't even like peanut butter that much, but I have like jars of peanut butter in my cabinet. I need to make a whole shelf just for peanut butter, but it lasts a long time if it's unopened. And even after it is open, it'll last a long time.
Right. There's a lot of grocery stores. I know when I was up in New York, they had, I think, Price Chopper or something, would always have the like 10 for 10.
Hmm.
or that kind of thing. Now it's probably with budget world, it's probably like 4 for 10, but whatever, But I used to be able to go in and buy like 10 jars of like Peter Pan peanut butter. They were like smaller jars, but a dollar
Right.
jar of peanut butter is pretty awesome. And and what I did was I would buy like the 10, and maybe at the end of the year I had like 4 that I didn't use or something like that. And I would take those and give them to, somebody who maybe needed stuff a little bit more than I did, as I would start to approach the expiration date or that kind of thing. And but you could kind of get a lot of bang for your buck on stuff like that. Crushed tomatoes, tomato sauce, stuff like that'll come on sale. And that's the thing. You just take advantage and start to look, keep an eye out. And again, as your budget dictates, really, if you have some money and you have some way to safely store these items, then you should be looking at, buying a little bit more.
Hmm.
But if your budget allows for $10 a week worth of extra food, I hope it's $20 now as, things start to go up. But, I understand budgets are tight for everybody. Um, Moving right along, our next thing is bullets. And bullets are coming down in price again. Um,
Hmm.
if you look, I think the best deal that I just saw recently for 5.56 with brass casings, I think I could get it shipped. It was like $460 for 1,000 rounds. And I know that sounds pretty horrible, but it's a lot better than it was a year ago. That's what I can tell you. Um, and maybe 500, maybe 200, maybe getting a handgun with 100 rounds is tripling what you have right now. Maybe that's where you need to be. Maybe
Hmm.
Kevin needs to get a little bit shinier pair of nunchucks, whatever. You step up your game to the level that you could be at. Maybe you get a 4-inch knife or whatever. I don't know what's legal in New York. Like maybe a sharp pen, right? Maybe you go
Yeah.
buy the Bic with the extra fine point
Yeah. If
so
you're
you
in New
can
York,
stab
Illinois, or
somebody in the eye.
California, you've got
Right.
some permitting issues that you might have to either comply with or get around somehow. I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting anybody break the law, but why is it the state's business on what you have in your own house? Maybe they should mind their own fucking business, and you should vote for better people. But that's
Oh,
getting
oh,
aside of the point.
oh.
Um, the fact of the matter is that there are going to be some basic safety concerns in any bad situation. Uh, I used to live out in an apartment complex in California when I was younger, and the power went out, the whole area. And I was sitting outside with some neighbors, and this guy was just walking down the street past the apartments. And the guy I was sitting with jumped up and said, what the fuck do you want, get out of here, chased him off. And I said, what was that all about? He goes, this is the power's out. He goes, people are walking around right now looking for empty houses because there's no lights anywhere. He goes, there are shady people doing shady shit all the time, and you need to be aware of that. Just because you and your neighbors are decent people doesn't mean that somebody can't walk through your neighborhood that's not a decent person.
Right.
And I'm not saying that you need to shoot everybody that comes in your neighborhood that you don't recognize. I'm just
But maybe
saying
you
that,
should.
yeah, in bad situations, bad people take advantage, and it's
Yeah.
just important to be aware of that.
Yeah. No, that sounds right. Yeah, you just need to be alert, and you need to have the tools that are available to you. And that's something,
Yeah,
that you
and
should
you
be
need to
thinking
know how
about.
to use the tools that are available to you too.
There you
If you've
go.
got a firearm and you bought it and then went to the range one time and then put it in the cabinet, and then 6 years later you need to use it, you're not going to know what the hell you're doing. You
Right.
need to use that equipment and understand how it works and get proficient with it, whether it's
Yeah.
a firearm or a screw gun. You know what I mean? Whatever your
Right.
tools are, you need to know how to use them. They're useless if you don't know how to use them properly.
Right. I mean, I would say, hey, I'm big with I have like 8-inch targets and 100-yard range. And with my rifle, you should be able to walk out there and bang an 8-inch target at 100 yards while you're standing up, not all laying down with a 10x scope and, everything
Mhm.
perfect. No, you should be able to pick up a rifle and hit something at 100 yards. If you're not, you need to step up your game. You know, you need to go out there and put a little time and, figure out how to get better. Now, I can be a little bit better than that. Maybe you don't need to be at that level, but you need to be able to bang a target at an 8-inch target at 100 yards. You need those skills. Um, I would say go out and try hunting. I know the season's coming to an end for most of us, but
Mhm.
go out there and see what it's like. See what it takes to really shoot something and get a handle on it. That's something that you need to kind of do as a prepper, as somebody who's prepared to handle business. You need to understand how that game is played, because there are so many people who don't understand that game. And they say survival of the fittest. Well, there's a reason they say that, and it's
Right.
the people who have their shit together that are going to be the ones that come through and come out on top. The last thing that you need to focus on, I think, is having your house in order, your homestead. What is your plan for water when the power goes out?
Mhm.
If things change, what do you do? You know, there's a lot of things you need to look into. Now, we've done episodes where we go deep on each one of these topics, but there are things that you need to, think about. All right, you're saying, well, Chuck, I don't have anything. There's no creek, there's no pond, I don't have a well. I'm basically limited. All right, well, find out what you do have. Could you buy a water bob plastic insert for your tub that you could just throw in there and fill up with water if power went out, right?
Mhm.
Because usually if you don't have a well, that water will keep coming for a day or so or a couple hours, depending where you are.
Right.
Um, do you have something you can fill up? Do you know that you could go to your water heater and pull water out of there? Do you know that you could fill your washing machine? And yeah, that water might be kind of and kind of soapy, and you might not want it for a fun drink. You might be able to use that water for your toilet or
Mhm.
something like that, right? That's something you might want to look into. Do you know that there's water in the back of your toilet tank? You know, think about the options. Can you set aside a couple gallons? Can you put them under the bed in the limited storage area? You know, these are things that matter. Maybe your college dorm room, right? Maybe you have the 24 pack of bottled water and you keep an extra one. Not I work through 24 until it's empty and then
Right.
go buy another one. Maybe I have two 24s and I use one and I have one as a backup. That might be something smart that you want to think about. Water's a big deal. Water matters. Do you have options for backup power? Are these options protected against an EMP? A solar panel probably be okay with an EMP, but your charge controller, your inverter to get that power back out, that probably isn't going to make it through an EMP. Do you have a backup plan for that? All right, Chuck, EMPs are crazy and that'll never happen. Okay, that's all right. You don't need to maybe go that far, but how far do you need to go? Do you have extra batteries for your flashlights, for your devices? Do you have enough that, are you going to burn through two batteries in a day? So where does that get you? If you're using a flashlight all night long, that kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
How far can you go? Do you have a radio, some way to listen to emergency information if, the power was out? That's something you need to think about. All right. So we talked about, do we have food? We have guns. We have, all this stuff in our house. How well is your house protected? If somebody comes up and bangs on your door right now with a, angry fist, check out who it is before you open that door. Do you have a
Right.
way to see there? All right. Is there a weapon or something nearby? Like, how would you responsibly answer that door and know that you're going to be able to control the situation and be in charge? Now,
Right.
some of you might go as far as to have a mannequin all dressed up, filled with tannerite, and he might answer the door for you. That's one way to
Hmm.
go. And some of you might be at a different level where you're like, hey, no, I don't have that, but I do have, a handgun strapped to my side. Or, hey, I live in the city and I'm afraid of guns and I'm a scared child. So I have a baseball bat somewhere nearby. Do you
Hmm.
have that? You know, what are your options? And what I would say is if you are limited with the weapons available to you, that's when it's time to step up your skill and your ability. That's when you really need to focus on your natural hand to hand combat skills, your alertness, your preparedness. These are the things you need to start paying attention to.
Hmm.
Um, Now, I know Kevin always mentions like smoke detectors, that kind of thing. Do you have your house covered for basic emergencies? Do you have things in order? Do you have a bunch of dead limbs and leaves all around your tree that are just a fire hazard waiting to happen? Or do you have things kind of cleaned up and squared away? Do you have a big dying tree in your front yard, with a giant branch hanging over your front door that could, a widow maker just waiting to take somebody out? It doesn't do any good if you have a year's worth of food storage, but you don't have your house in order, right?
Right.
These are things you need to be aware of and thinking about. You need to be, hey, let me just look around. What's going on? Do you have a way to heat your house when the power's out? A lot of people are like, oh, I'll just do this. Oh, I have this little space heater. All right, you have a kerosene heater in the garage that you might be able to dig out and put in the living room. Do you have kerosene for it? Do you have
Yeah.
kerosene for one day or do you have kerosene for 5 days? You know, um, do you have an alternative method that you can switch to? Do you have a room you guys can all hang out and some kind of, little heater that you can use to heat it? What are your options? These things you need to start preparing for. Um, Basically, how to handle your own business. That's your job as a prepper, as a survivalist, is finding ways to handle your business, how to take care of your family, take care of the people you've made a commitment to, the people you care, people you love. There's no worse feeling than being unable to do something when, your family's in danger and not being able to provide for them.
Right. Right. I know there's a lot of basic stuff that people do around their house. Um, like landscaping and
Right.
everybody likes to have a nice lawn. That's big in the United States, is having a nice lawn. uh, but things, a lot of things like that you're doing, you can make minor changes to and get a big reward, by doing so. Replacing your lawn with clover is a great idea. Get some wildlife in your yard, something that you have access to. Instead of planting flowers, plant some vegetable bushes. Some blueberry bushes. Instead of grading your yard so it's nice and flat, grade it so that it collects some water in a certain area. There's
Right.
a lot of small changes you can do that'll give you a big advantage, even if it's just 2 weeks of power outage. You know, Having some candles available and things like that go a long way. But having a yard that you can provide a small amount of food for yourself um, for a week or two, supplement some of your freeze dried food with some fresh vegetables. Those are those are a big step up. Chuck and I are both real big on gardening, big proponents of growing some of your own food, whether it's a lot of food or just a couple of vegetables to keep your hand at it. Um, I like to keep a small amount of livestock. Personally, it's ducks and chickens, but some people do goats and sheep, and you know, those are great sources of food. Um, when your budgets comes into question and when your just day-to-day life uh gets a little hiccup in it, you know can't run to the grocery store because it's Saturday morning and I wanted to sleep in, but I still want, still want eggs for breakfast. You're all set to go. There's a lot of minor things you can do in your day-to-day life that add a big benefit, another thing that I would say is when it comes to home security, like Chuck was saying, you have somebody angry banging at your front door. Can they bang in your front door? Can they kick your front door in? Because if so, maybe you need to like step up that front door a little bit. Can somebody sneak into your backyard and come in through your side door? I don't know. Maybe somebody shouldn't be able to get into your side door unless you let them in. Unless you're opening that door and unlocking it from the inside. And a lot of the basic stuff just comes from locking your doors and windows.
Right.
Do you leave your house all day and don't even? I live in the country. Nobody's out here. I don't have to worry about that stuff. Well, not until somebody breaks into your house. You don't have to worry about it. I had
Exactly.
a good friend of mine that lived way out in the country, and somebody broke into his house and stole his guns.
Right.
You might not think you have a whole lot of things worth value, but to certain people, you do. And to
Right.
certain people, kicking a front door in is not a big deal to do. And it's not outside of their character. There are bad people in the world, and they live out in the country just like they live out in the city.
Yeah. No, exactly. And you need to, be aware of that. Maybe have a plan where, hey, somebody bangs on my front door, I can slip out the side door or the back door and loop around and come up behind them. Um, you set the terms. But unless you think of it and you have a plan of how you're going to react, I mean, that's in so many situations that can be the game changer is you having a plan of attack. That's why we discuss these things. That's why we talk about this stuff all the time is when you consider each scenario, you kind of think through and go through the different options of how you might respond. It's going to be the difference in whether you're the victim or the victor. That's really what it comes down to is having a plan. And we did broad strokes. We covered how to basically start to get your house in order, how to put things the way they should be so you'll be prepared for whatever comes up. But that's what prepping's all about. And it's important to take inventory and kind of have a focus, every now and again and kind of go through and say, what steps, where am I falling short? Where am I up weak? And where do I need to improve? Medical stuff. Do you have medical supplies? Your prescriptions, that kind of stuff. Do you have, triple antibiotic? I always use like Oragel for like numbing, if I had to do stitches or that kind of thing on the kids, they get a little, oh, it hurts, whatever. You have options. But do you have this stuff in your inventory? Do you have a reasonable amount of triple antibiotic or bacitracin or something like that? Do you have bandages? A lot of us in the gun knife world, do you have tourniquets? That kind of thing. Do you have, exactly, be prepared. How important is it to, have your stuff together and play these scenarios out? That's what will make the difference. So I just wanted to kind of go through the steps and the areas that I always think are important that kind of seem to be the recurring theme. And it's because it matters. You need to have your house in order to handle business. And once you get your budget under control, your food worries, I don't have to run out to the store when something, goes wrong. Oh, there's a hurricane coming. I have to go with the 1,000 other people and fight through the grocery store to get the last loaf of bread. No,
Right.
I have supplies set aside. I mean, I might step up something when some big event or something happens, but for the most part, I'm not desperate. I don't have to put my family in harm's way in order to go get that bread and milk to cover, through the day. And that's what you need to do as a prepper is start to take charge and you just make steps. You take baby steps in the right direction and you just keep getting better every day. And that's the thing. All right, I can't do full on workout. I don't have time for that, whatever. All right, but can you do 20 push ups at the end of the day, every day,
Hmm.
or when you wake up? Right? Can you do some sit ups? Can you do a little bit? Can you go for a walk with the wife after dinner? These are the things that you start to do to start to, put yourself ahead of everybody else. And it's not a matter of being better than other people. It's about being able to help people, how to help yourself, help your family, and help the people that you care about. And
Right.
that's
And
really
don't
what
be
it
one of the
comes
people
down
that
to.
need help. That's another big thing. Don't be
Yeah,
one of the people that's taxing everybody else because you didn't have anything prepared. So I mean, it's one of those things that I hear people like denigrate prepping for in a lot of different ways.
the crazies and the, yeah,
One of the things I hear is like, uh, you're hoarding. Well, it's not hoarding if you're buying everything when nobody else is chasing after it. It's another thing
right,
to not have anything, and then something happens and you run out and buy all the last bottles of water or all the last things off the shelf because you didn't have anything prepared.
right,
There's going to be a lot of people in an emergency situation that aren't prepared. You don't want to be one of those people. You don't want to be one of those people that's fist fighting in the aisle to make sure that you get the last box of spaghetti
right.
before the food shortage starts. When the pandemic started, I know it, you know, I don't think anybody doesn't remember a couple of times going to the grocery store where the shelves were just empty. You went out
Right.
looking for something specific and it wasn't there because it wasn't delivered or somebody else had bought the last bit of it. People were really panic buying. And it's nice to be able to go in and choose what you want to buy, even in an emergency situation. Maybe you just want a couple of pieces of fresh fruit for the next few days, you know,
Right.
but at least you're not going to starve to death. And and it comes a lot more often than people like to think. Oh, prices have really gone up. People say that sort of stuff. Well, prices are going to keep going up, and eventually you might not be able to afford the things that you want to have. Um, I like I said, I went to the grocery store the other day and spent $300, and I barely got a week's worth of food.
Right.
Things are crazy right now. Uh,
Yeah.
your paycheck isn't going up, but your bills definitely are, and it's nice to be a little bit self-sufficient in your day-to-day life to kind of mitigate some of those costs.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, and what one of the comments here is, hey, maybe start to step up the skills in order to prepare. And those skills might be gardening, farming, they might be hunting, they might be how to forage for food. These kind of things can all, step up your game of how to take care of yourself and how to make your resources last. If you can recognize what's available around you, then what opportunities. So many people, end up starving to death when they're surrounded by things that they could be eating,
Right.
be it cattails or something a little more
Mushrooms.
unusual and right. And you're not going to randomly eat mushrooms when you don't know anything about them. We've all heard scary stories, but it turns out you can learn about them. You can
Yeah.
learn how to recognize things that are safe and that are available to you. Take a foraging class, find a way to step up your game. But that's where, that's what it comes down to is you starting to take control of your life. The more you're prepared, the less you're dependent on the government, on somebody else, and on a system that's very fragile and may not be there to support you. And that's what you need to understand. The way our government spends money and manages things, it's possible that they won't always be there and able to step up and hand you your SNAP benefit card, that kind of thing,
Hmm.
your
Right.
EBT. It's very possible that you may need to take care of yourself one day. Who knew, right? I know as an American, that used to be our mindset, right?
Used to
It
be the
used to be
standard, right?
the standard of what we were about. I
Rugged
handle my own
individualism.
business.
Hmm.
Exactly. And now we're so far from that. So, maybe maybe
Maybe
start to
listen to grandma
incorporate
when
those
she
skills.
tells those stories, listen to grandpa and what he went through. Old people are full of wisdom. I'm getting old myself. I still haven't found that wisdom, but I mean,
No, I'm
whatever.
looking for it, Kevin. Yeah,
Whatever. It is what it
exactly.
is.
So, with that, I would say it's time to get your house in order. A great way to do that is to maybe sign up for our email list at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Um, or wait, at preppingbadass.com. You can email us with questions and concerns at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you download it. Leave a review. Tell your friends. All those things help us. And we will talk to you guys next week. Yeah.